The most common misconception is that it's just so much harder on a seller to accept a VA loan, and that is just not true. What we have seen with VA loans is that the VA loan program is trying to get veterans into a home. And so they're not
Right.
trying to make it harder for them, and they just take a harder look on the safety features. So most homes actually qualify for VA when they just don't believe that they could.
Hey everyone, this is Richard Sari with Alliance Mortgage Group, your host for Helping Heroes Become Homeowners. This is your first time listening to us. We welcome you. We thank you for your service if you're active or military veteran. So today we've got a really good guest, my friend Jennifer Snodgrass with Keller Williams Realty in Abilene, Texas. Out there, that's directly west of North Dallas, right? Southwest, kind of,
Yeah, we're about
sort of.
3 hours west of Fort Worth.
Abilene, I've been there. Great town, great community. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Jennifer. What brought you into real estate? How long have you been doing real estate?
So my name is Jennifer Snodgrass. Thank you for having me on, Richard. I'm actually originally from the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex and have been in Abilene my whole adult life. I don't know if we're allowed to say on here how old we are, but I'm 46 and have been
Absolutely.
here. And I've been here since I was in my early 20s. I found that Abilene was a great place as a single mom at that time to raise children and to be close by them. It's a sweet little community here in Abilene. So I've had my real estate license for 8 years in this area. I began with my real estate degree in 1999. And so started working in custom home building. I worked as a realtor's assistant back then. I worked in property management, also worked in lending, and spent the majority of that time in the insurance business. And here,
So I think it's safe to say you've got some skins on the wall, right? You've got some experience. You've been in market like we're in now, right? It's a little cattywampus, so to speak,
yeah.
but each market has different challenges and we learn from what's going on right now. So tell us what's going on in Abilene's market right now. How long is it taking houses to get turned over, sitting on the market? What are you seeing out there?
So we're definitely seeing longer days on market than we have in the past. The prices have increased as they have everywhere. And of course, the interest rates playing another role in that challenge. And so the homes are sitting on the market for longer average days on market than we are used to. What we are seeing in this market is that homes that are still priced and maybe under the $300,000 mark are selling a lot more quickly than homes over that price. So the days on market just being increased has been a new challenge that most of our both buyers and sellers are not used to.
So at that price point, you mentioned under 300,000, what are you seeing as the majority of the financing being used for that price point?
Typically, we are seeing VA loans, we're seeing FHA loans still, and we are seeing conventional. It really is a run of the gamut for the types of loan programs that our buyers are using.
Are you seeing a lot of pushback on the VA offers like we were seeing a few years ago?
I am seeing some of that, Richard. There has been, if you have a home that's priced well, then typically that listing agent knows that they have priced it. And so they are thereby, from the pricing standpoint alone, made it more competitive. And so the conventional loans are still the most desirable for sellers, especially in that situation. However, I've seen quite a lot of VA loans and FHA loans being accepted as long as they're competitive. Sometimes we see even VA and FHA borrowers helping to take care of some maybe lender required repairs and agreeing to that kind of thing up front rather than
Okay.
just waiting for it to happen.
So with the VA, we're talking about VA here for everybody. What is the biggest misconception that you're hearing still in the marketplace? I know you've got lending background as well, but what is the common misconception that you're still hearing that you're maybe having to overcome when you present an offer to a seller?
The most common misconception is that it's just so much harder on a seller to accept a VA loan. And that is just not true. What we have seen with VA loans is that the VA loan program is trying to get veterans into a home. And so they're not
Right.
trying to make it harder for them, and they just take a harder look on the safety features. So most homes actually qualify for VA when they just don't believe that they could.
From a seller's perspective, thinking the house isn't going to pass.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or that there will be so many repairs and that it's just going to be this terrible process. And it's just simply not true.
Yeah. That's one of the most common ones outside of putting nothing down. Sellers and the agents that maybe represent the seller in that situation thinking they're a weak buyer, which they're really not. They have the option of not doing anything down. If they have money to put down, they don't have to. So that's been one of the biggest things out here is they're putting nothing down. And like you mentioned, the seller may be out of pocket money by taking that offer, which that's something that what I have to do is when I know there's going to be a VA offer placed on a property, I usually reach out to the selling agent and give them a call saying my buyer is using the VA benefit for X purpose. And these are the things that the seller may or may not encounter and try and debunk some of the misconceptions they may already have in their mind once they see that offer come over as a VA home loan.
And I appreciate that expertise, Richard, because that is a factor for some sellers of the zero down, and that these buyers may not have any money or may not have any resources should something come up. And so I do appreciate that you go that extra mile to share with them that, hey, that's just simply not true. They're maximizing the benefit of their VA loan program. And so it's a benefit to them and it's not a hindrance to the seller.
Absolutely. And in your market, you've got a military base there, right?
Yep.
You've got that active duty member, or you've got relo from one base to another coming to Abilene looking for a home that may have never used the entitlement before, or they want to use it again. So it's really surprising being in a military town that you would have a little bit of uneasiness, so to speak, about using that program to purchase a property there. So that's really interesting to hear.
Yeah, I was going to say I was on the listing side of one recently where we accepted a VA offer and it was smooth as could be. These sweet veterans that I did not represent these veterans. I was representing the seller, but they came in and they purchased the home sight unseen and just had a video walkthrough, presented a strong VA offer, still had no money down and that kind of thing. And of course they hadn't seen it, yet it was still a very strong offer and it was just fine. There were even a few deficiencies in the home that I myself was concerned about, and it caused zero trouble at all. The appraisal came and made value just fine. And so that has been an advantage that we've seen too, is appraisal values.
Yeah. So with VA, if it's safe, sound, and secure, you're good to go. Now there could be some pushback by the appraiser on a few items that may or may not you agree with that are being mentioned. But at the end of the day, if it's safe, sound, and secure, it's going to pass all day long. So what negotiating tactics, if you're representing your buyers, is there anything you do special that you've seen work to get offers accepted in your market or in general?
Yes. Sometimes in this market, sometimes it's the difference between closing costs and not asking for seller paid closing costs. Sometimes it's not asking for a home warranty. Shortening the length of the option period is another strategy. I have also been blessed with great relationships with other agents that know that I like to get to the finish line. And so that relationship also helps in getting the VA loan, the VA buyers accepted, the contract accepted.
And what's the typical closing time going on out there from your transactions when you get the contract executed by both parties?
It can be very quick right now. And also we're definitely seeing 45 days or less. We had a period of time where appraisers and surveyors were very busy. And so that was delaying some of the time frame. And so 30 days is very reasonable and seems to be that the lenders have plenty of time to get their stuff done. If appraisers, inspectors, everybody has plenty of time in 30 days. So I've seen a couple of them go quicker than that because of the turnaround time being so much faster, but still 30, 35 days, somewhere in that zone.
So when you're negotiating the contract and you have an offer being presented to you as the representing the sellers and you have seller concessions, what's your next step when you get an offer like that, when you see concessions? Is there anything special that you do, or you have any concerns with seeing an offer like that presented?
Again, it depends. So if I'm on the listing side, it really depends on the strength of the offer entirely. So some of the veteran borrowers or even conventional, just doesn't matter what it is, will increase the sales price of the home on their offer if it's a competitively priced home. Often we're just seeing more concessions today. And so
Hmm.
it really, of course, it always depends on the seller and what they want to do. I feel like I do a good job on the seller side of preparing them for a range of what might come and what they ought to expect to be satisfied with. And so I think that initial early preparation helps when offers start coming in, that I can say, okay, so here's the way we look at it. On the seller side, I try to focus on the net of the
Hmm.
seller rather than focusing on what I call the little bells and whistles that make an offer what it is. At the end of the day, I try to remind the seller that it's about their total net. So if we can get there and they need concessions, because oftentimes borrowers just need concessions and that's okay. And
Right.
so we just try to manage that in the sales price of the home rather than just straight concessions. If there's maybe splitting it or in price, overall price of the home.
Yeah. One thing that we're seeing here is we are starting to see houses sit on the market a little bit longer. We're seeing price drops. So one of the strategies that I try to present with my pre-qualified buyers is ask for concessions to do either a temporary rate buy down program, because everything's about affordability right now and payment.
Mhm.
Interest rate, the noise in the news, it's not a great time to buy. It's still a great time to purchase.
Agreed.
You just got to make sure that if your budget fits what you're looking for in your payment, go look for homes. If it's a program that you can get in at a cheaper payment for a shorter period of time as your income increases, or if the market's going to correct, we just don't know when. But you can use those concessions in that capacity and save more than paying less on the list price of the home. You just come out way more ahead if you do it that way. It is over a shorter period of time, but at the end of the day, whatever you have left in your concession amount from your buy down, that's going to come off your payoff when you do refinance the home.
Yeah.
So you have an advantage of using those dollars maybe in a different way when it comes to refinancing that property to get a lower rate. So the affordability factor, even with VA, because VA rates always price out more aggressively than conventional or FHA. For the veteran, it's going to be even more affordable with that program in place to lower the note rate with the concession. So in Abilene, you've been there for how long again?
25-ish years.
They've got a veteran moving into Abilene. Besides being transferred in, do they want to be closer to the base? Do they want to explain what your thought process would be as far as showing neighborhoods or areas of town?
That's a great question. So I don't know what all the other agents do, but because I received my education so many years ago in a classroom setting, I really learned a lot about people moving into a new place and what they really want to see. And so one thing that I have understood outside of Abilene, when our military folks are having conversations and they just got their orders to come to Dias, oftentimes there's some misconceptions about you only want to be in this school district and you definitely want to live here. And they have this general idea. And I find it very fun to just take them around town. If they actually physically come to Abilene, that's my very favorite, because I'll just stick them in my car and we'll just drive all around. I try to just take their price range in mind, and then we just go and see a home in each of those areas so that we can just run the gamut of what Abilene has to offer. Abilene does have quite a lot to offer. And we have, of course, got Abilene ISD School District. We've got Wiley School District. We've got Jim Ned School District. And then right outside of town, I find a lot of folks will still want to move to Clyde or Merkel or even Holly. We've got a big spread, which is really
Yeah.
nice for people coming in from all over the country like they do. They've come from all different backgrounds. So what they expect is something a little different, and it's not cookie cut, which I think is really fun. So it's really just that of what are their main needs and what does their personal life look like. Sometimes people do just want to live close to the base, and I want to be in an easy, convenient location to the base. And then when
Yep.
they come to Abilene, they find out we don't have traffic. There's no traffic here. So that looks a
Yep.
lot different to people coming from other places where they're used to spending so much time in the car. And they're like, I just have to live close because I just don't want it to take a long time to get to work. And I'm like, but you can live truly 15 minutes away from base or 20 minutes away from base. And it's only 15 to 20 minutes away from base compared to if you lived 15, 20 minutes from base in larger cities or larger areas where you're going to deal with traffic. You just don't deal with that here. So it's really quite nice.
One of the biggest loans we ever closed there was like a $1.5 million VA home loan in Abilene. Maybe it was outside Abilene. I don't remember. It was in the Abilene area, but that was a VA. One of the biggest VA home loans that we've closed was that amount. Now, VA or the conforming loan amount for FHA, VA, and conventional has increased to 750. So that would give a little bit more buying power. But if you have full entitlement, there's no max loan amount per se for VA. So it does give your veteran, if they've got full entitlement, a little bit more buying power, better affordability, even though rates are a little bit high right now, but you can still do the temporary rate buy down and help get that payment down over a shorter period of time. Yeah, it's cool to see that you have that kind of client base. You have a diverse client base in Abilene to where you can help pretty much everyone, which is awesome.
I was just going to say regarding that big loan that you guys had done here, of course, I knew a little bit about that loan that you guys did. And I think that's one of the wonderful, unique things about Abilene is that very thing right there is that those folks were able to acquire quite a bit of land, a big,
Yeah.
beautiful, luxurious home and quite a bit of land. And that was in the Gym Med School District, which is just south of Abilene. What's neat about the Gym Med School District is that there's a little bit of texture to the land in Gym Med, where you've got some hills and some more wide open spaces that people that have lived other places, either one, they came from having wide open spaces available to them, or they've never had that at all and have always wished they could. And so it's really neat to see the different variety of price point that we're able to offer in Abilene, where you've got just simple homes all the way to very high-end luxury estates, really.
Is there anything new being built in Abilene? Any new developments, any new projects that would bring more people to Abilene? Help
That's a
the
good
prices out
question.
there?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was able to learn, fortunately, I was one of the youngest females to ever be on the board for the Chamber of Commerce. I got here and I think my big city self just jumped right into the thick of the action. And so I was a little too young to really understand all that was going on. And what I found out was that Abilene Development Corporation of Abilene spent a good deal of time in the early years after the 80s when the savings and loans bust and the oil field had such a hard time. And there were places, just cities completely dying around. Just that was it. That 1980s took them out. So what
Yep.
Abilene chose at that time was to begin a different take on the infrastructure. So they really did a great job of diversifying and they set out a long-term plan to capitalize on that diversification. So we actually just had a new cheese factory come in, and that's a large corporation that has come in and added quite a lot of jobs. Dias was actually selected for a new plane. Oh, I'd be lying to you if I said the name of the plane because it's been in the works for several years, but we haven't quite seen it yet. I've only seen it in the sky one time, so it's not quite here yet. But we will have an influx of folks coming into Dias for that particular plane, and that should be happening anytime in the next couple of years, which is great. We've got a biotech diversification in Abilene where there's laboratories and clinics that are doing trials and things like that, which is super neat. And of course, we've got universities here. We've got Abilene Christian University and Hardin Simmons University, McMurray University. We have TSTC, which is Texas State Technical College. And it seems like I'm missing one more. Oh, and then just our Cisco Community College. And so we've got quite a lot of offering for young people to either begin or continue education. So we really have a lot of development continuing to happen. They're revitalizing downtown, which has been
Yeah.
neat. There's a whole area there called Soda, which is South Downtown Abilene. And that's had a wonderful response from the community and especially younger people to come in and have things to do.
You just gave me a list of a lot of things going on in your community that should help drive housing. People are going to need a place for shelter. Have you seen the rental markets at all increase in price?
Oh, yeah, we have
Yeah.
truly, there's been an across the board increase in pricing over the last several years. And so the rental market is no different, where the prices of homes have increased. The rental property owners have also increased their prices. Same with apartments. It is getting a bit higher, where Abilene still has an excellent cost of living. Part of that is because everything is so close. And so you don't have to, you just have it all right here. And so it's just a different environment in that way. But the prices have definitely increased in the rental market as well.
Have you seen a lot of investors come in to buy rental properties?
I would not call it a lot. Yet what I deal with my investors that I represent, they're capitalists. They're looking for a great deal. And right now the deals aren't as great as they have once been. And that's been a different kind of market. I actually have a couple of clients that they've just bought brand new construction homes for their rental portfolio of just
Yeah.
buy it brand new and come in, and whatever they pay today is going to work out okay for them in the end. I've got several investor clients that are moving out, we're investing outside of Abilene. I've got some that are working in the Clyde area and the Merkel area, of trying to just be a little bit outside of town where they know that it'll be a bit more affordable in those areas.
So with veterans, so you have your active duty members there on the base. Some of them are not aware that they can use their housing allowance and purchase a house, right? While they're active military. We've had some past experiences where we take the housing allowance, we use that, they buy a home, then they get relocated to another base. And their first indication is I have to sell that property so I can use my entitlement on the next purchase. What they may want to consider is keeping that home as a rental property. Because if you have some additional entitlement left on your next purchase, you may not have to do anything down at all. And if you had to put a little bit down, you're still going to avoid the MI payment. So you can build wealth with your VA home loan benefit if you do it strategically. You don't necessarily have to give up your first purchase with your VA home loan because you got to use it the next time. So that could be a strategy for your active duty members that are purchasing a home. Use that housing allowance instead of using it towards base housing and start building some equity and start building some wealth. So that is something we've seen here.
I love that strategy. It's one of my favorite strategies, actually, is if you can be in the position to purchase that home, and then just someone else can make that mortgage payment for you. And so I'm grateful that you brought that up, because that's one of my favorite strategies for people, is building wealth in a way that they might not have thought about, but because of their entitlement and their VA benefit, maybe they can. So that's great.
Yeah, because if you can also just once you vacate that property and you still have a VA home loan portion on that mortgage, you can still streamline that. You can still take advantage and streamline it, even though you don't live in the house anymore. You can also just refinance it into a different loan product if you need to free up the entitlement on your next purchase. Like you mentioned, there's strategies. You just can't assume that you have to get rid of that property because you have something tied to it. There's consult with an originator, a loan officer, a real estate agent, and figure out if you have to sell that property. Sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
So give me, like you mentioned earlier, you've been around for a long time, a lot of skins on the wall. Give me some examples of your success and your experiences in real estate that you can think of.
Some of my success is really the thing that I'm most proud of in my business is that I did work very hard to develop a reputation in the community of being a doer and being a helper and participating in the opportunities that were placed in front of me. For example, being one of the younger members on the board for the Chamber of Commerce back then. And because of that time that I spent working hard in the community, I'm grateful at this point to have the majority of my business that comes from referrals. And so at this point in my career and in my life, where people just recognize me as someone that has had success in the community, but that I'm also very willing to help. I giggle and call myself the friendly and professional real estate agent, where I feel like I can offer that good mix of we're friendly and we're having fun, and I've seen so much go on that I can help them to take it a little easier and not get feathers ruffled and get flustered through the process. We can just take it a bit easier through the process. And I'm grateful that people come to me for that reason, where we can laugh in spite of adversity and some of the things and challenges that come up. We can roll with those better. And so I'm grateful that people will trust me enough to refer me in all that we've been through. So I would say that's
Right.
the thing I'm most proud of.
Use yourself as an example, but from a real estate agent perspective, how do agents keep up with guidelines for VA loans, conventional loans, FHA, special products? Because their products are getting more and more specialized. I probably get a new product email probably once a week on something new from a different lender, a lender specific program. What do agents do to stay educated? Because you have buyers are slim right now. So we're trying to get everybody into a home or get everybody financed that we come across. So in my mind, I'm a due diligence guy. I'm going to make sure that if I can't do that loan right now, there's a reason why. But from a product perspective, I've got all the products. So how do agents stay in front of that? How do they get that information?
Great question. It's simply things like this right here. The open dialogue that we are able to have with our favorite lenders is critical, in my opinion, in this market, because we can't know. We don't get those weekly emails. Now, I say that you and several lenders do a great job of sending out, hey, I got this new product. I've got this new thing. But really, it's a good dialogue between me as the realtor and you as the lender is coming through and going, okay, Richard, what do you have going on? And lenders like yourself that do such a great job of being proactive and saying, hey, I've got this new thing and here's how it can work for you. It's really matching up with someone. You're an easy matchup for me, Richard, because of the piece you just said. I'm a due diligence guy. See, I'm a communicator and I'm a talker and I'm a relationship girl. So the due diligence is maybe a bit harder on my side than it is for you. So if I can line up with someone that cares deeply about the due diligence and make sure, it's one of my favorite things about working with you, to be honest, Richard, is that you're a due diligence guy. You take care of those things up front and you help them be matched up with the right program. So when I'm working with a buyer, I lean heavy on my favorite lenders. I just lean heavy on you guys because it's easier on my side. And I explain to the buyers, hey, so here's what you're going to find out. I'm going to do I know enough to be dangerous, enough to ask enough questions about lending, enough to help you with that. But I'd rather stay in my lane. And I'm the realtor here. And you've got a lender and he's the expert there. Even though I can have an idea, my idea from lending comes from 15 years ago. So that's my strategies aren't last week's email that gave me this new loan program. It's, hey, this is just an idea and a strategy, but I need to hook you up with Richard so that Richard can make sure to walk you down the road of all of your special uniqueness that makes you you, and he can help marry you up to the right loan program for today. And like you had talked about the rate buy down, for some people, that's a great fit. And for other people, there's another way to make that work for them better. And so I appreciate that. And that's how I handle it, is stay in my lane and refer them to an expert. That's my strategy.
And I know she may or may not be listening, but we have an awesome processor who used to be an underwriter. So
it's true.
She's good at what she does. And she brings out some things that I failed to see. So she's second set of eyes. It's a big part of our team getting that process through a lot faster is having a good processor.
Yeah.
Things that I've learned here in the last forever, but got reminded is that knowledge drives confidence and confidence drives success. That I heard that a few weeks ago and it re-energized me a little bit in terms of what our industry is going through right now.
Yeah.
I'm taking on more things and reiterating some of the things that I've learned, products that I've learned, guidelines that need to be reread, and trying to become more of an expert, become the expert in your industry. So are there anything that you're doing to become better at your craft?
So I am a continual lifelong learner. I actually love to learn. And I have found that just I've lined up with Keller Williams, and so that works for me. All the realtors have their own kind of reason for why they stay where they stay. I love being with Keller Williams for that very reason, where I know that I can get continual education from the top down. And I participate in that. And I think that's part of lining up with a brokerage too, is choosing like who really lines up with me. And Gary Keller, thankfully, is also a lifelong learner, and he loves to learn and he loves to grow. And so it makes easy sense for me to line up there. And so I just continually will take the classes that I can take, and just I read all my Texas Realtor magazines and just try to stay on top of the market as best I can so that I can continue providing that value to my client.
So does Keller Williams put you on the spot here, but does Keller Williams offer the military relo professional certification?
I don't believe that they actually offer any certifications other than just internal learning. However, through our local board, which is an excellent local board, and then of course just the Texas Realtor Association, they give us many opportunities to work on that certification and others.
Okay. So I know it's been what now, 30 minutes or so. I thank you for being on the show today. You bring a lot of value to your market. We've worked together for, it seems like a long time. Our kids are now
Big.
at the point where they will become homeowners here soon, hopefully.
Yes.
I know with my son, he just recently moved out and he's in an apartment.
Yeah.
And, apartment living isn't cheap. Like you mentioned earlier, he's paying
Wow.
probably 3 times what I paid rent 30 plus years ago. One of the things that he mentioned to me before he left was, Dad, I don't know if I'm ever going to be a homeowner. And that kind of broke my heart. Yeah, you will.
Yeah.
You just got to put a strategy together and you got to save, and you have to have that mindset. Don't listen to the noise. So even doing this for a living, you have someone within your family telling you these words, and that's, I think, the mentality for that age group, that they don't think they're going to be a homeowner anytime soon. And we have to figure out a way to make that work for
Yep.
sure.
I think that's right. And I've got a son who is 22, and he's just bent right now on he wants to live debt free. And so he wants to,
Yeah.
he sees things a little bit differently, and he looks at it and thinks, wait a minute. So I'd like to maybe if I could just buy a little plot of land and just slowly begin building on that while he's younger, that he can live small. And as he ages and grows, wife, children, all of those other things, that he can expand on what he's got. But he also has a desire to flip homes. And so that's been an interesting conversation with him. And it just looks a certain way in one's youth that isn't really fully reality. It just seems a certain way. So just like your son with the comment of, I'll never be a homeowner, but then my son with this comment of, I'm going to flip houses and I'm going to make bank. And here's the way that kind of worked is, number one, if there's bank to be made inside a house on a flip, then number one, it's not lasting on the market. It will be gone in the first couple of days to a cash bidder that comes in and grabs that, who also then has a boatload of cash to put in it. And so it's a different position. So he has this grandiose idea of, I'm just going to grab these houses and I'm going to make bank. And it's, how will you pay to renovate the kitchen? And he's exactly. And so there's just a little more to think about here. And so it is interesting and fun to get to watch this next generation come up and try to figure out what their strategy will be. And as they learn and grow into it, I didn't become a homeowner until I was in my 30s. And so I was in my 30s and had been in real estate, and my life circumstance, having, been a single mom and done these and moved cities and did all these different things, I just couldn't. And so it wasn't until much later. And so it's an interesting process.
Yeah. For us, I think I was 20, 23 or 24.
Mhm.
And my youngest was 6 months old when we bought that house. And back then in the mid 90s, it was like, that's the next step in
Yep.
life is now you go buy a home and raise a family.
Yep.
Those dynamics have definitely changed
Yeah. For
for
sure.
sure.
For sure.
So from a real estate agent and a loan officer perspective, we need to figure out a way to change that mindset and show the affordability and show that it can be done. You can build wealth, and you're going to build wealth a little bit faster if we can get you into a home. So it's definitely something that I take great pride in trying to show the benefits. We have a first time home buyer class next week
Oh,
with about 10 folks that have signed up already. It's not a whole lot of people in today's market. You still have 10 families, 12 families that want to come in and learn about home ownership because 2024 is going to look a lot different.
mhm.
There might be opportunities that come up in the first or second quarter, and that's going to change the mindset of these folks to start looking at homes right away.
Yeah.
So
You
we're
brought me to
constantly
just
learning. We're constantly teaching.
You brought me to one other thought. I've got a sweet set of sellers recently who they, just like you and your wife did, you had a baby, you bought a house. That's how you did. This couple got married and quickly bought a house. That was just like you said. That's like the order that you do it. They got married, they bought a house. And so they have just sold their first house and they paid extra every month. They took care of their mortgage timely. They made sure, and they were there for 7 years, which I always remind people that they don't really know the averages. The average that someone stays in a house is 7 to 10 years, seven
Yeah.
to 10 years. And the amount of equity that can be seen in 7 to 10 years is just incredible in some cases, especially
Yeah.
for those people that do just add on $100 a month or they add on $200 a month, whatever they do on their payment that they've done in their own strategy. And so it's
Hmm.
quite the honor to represent someone who has kind of done it, quote unquote, right, where they bought that house, they paid a little bit of extra on the house, and that wasn't even necessary, but it helped them tremendously when it was time for them to upgrade. In this market, those are the most common people that we're seeing upgrade their homes are people that have lived there for that average length of time, 7 to 10 years. And then they're sitting in a great position to be able to go and purchase that next place. But really,
Isn't
such,
that fun to see that happen when
yes.
you have maybe a young couple who may have cold feet? They may think maybe this isn't the right thing to do.
Mhm.
They do it and they reap the benefit 7, 10 years later, like you're explaining.
My
That's
favorite.
because now they see it. They see how it works.
Yeah,
And I don't think that anyone like that would ever go backwards unless they truly had to
right.
and go back to renting. So it's that's an awesome story.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Okay, so let's talk about what do you have to promote? You got anything going on for yourself? Anything that you're wanting to get out there in the world about Abilene? What's going on there right now?
I love Abilene. So not anything different than that story. I love Abilene. I try really hard to participate in things like, again, going back to the Chamber of Commerce, being on the board for the chamber. I've been on the board for the Professional Women in Building. And I was the president of that organization for 7 years. I have, of course, stayed active in many community aspects. The United Way of Abilene is one of my favorite boards that I favor. Currently, I'm on the board for the Abilene Philharmonic. That's part of the reason that I easily stayed in Abilene was because, to be honest with you, Richard, when I first arrived in Abilene, I thought it was a little too slow and a little too quiet for me. And of course, I was younger then and wanted it to be a little bit faster and a little bit louder and didn't recognize just the beauty and what a sweet community we really do have. But the Abilene Philharmonic is a legitimate Philharmonic Orchestra, and they bring in featured musicians from all over the country, Broadway performers to come and sing. It's just really a neat environment, and where unlike in the Bass Performance Hall or some large place of the Dallas Music Symphony, having such a large venue and so difficult to get to. We've got just our civic center and they do an excellent job. So I'm on the board for the Abilene Philharmonic this weekend. There's a concert that we actually, Grassroots Home Team, my husband and I have sponsored. And so I love the Philharmonic. I love that we have little opportunities like that to, I love music. And so to step away, we've got lots of concert venues and things like that. So presently, The Abilene Philharmonic is my primary passion at this moment, and I just love it, enjoy it, and I think that Abilenians should participate. It's really, I don't think that it's as well known as it could be, that it's even
Yeah.
here. I think a lot of people in Abilene have the misconception that it's just the guy next to you at church or whatever that's up there playing the violin, and that's not true. These are real career performers, career musicians that come into Abilene for the weekend to deliver these performances for us. So I love the
That's
Philharmonic.
cool. So if anybody wants to learn about that, they can reach out to you, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Perfect. And tell everybody once again, how can they get in touch with you? What's the best way to get in touch with you?
I definitely prefer you just to reach out to me via phone call or text. My name is Jennifer Snodgrass, Keller Williams Realty. Our team name is Grassroots Home Team. Our phone number is 325-370-2054. Again, Jennifer Snodgrass, 325-370-2054.
Very cool. Well, I thank you for being on with me today. You're awesome at what you do, and we love you. You're awesome.
Thanks. I love you too, Richard. Alliance Mortgage is excellent. You really do have an excellent team that I am proud to work with. And you do have an excellent processor. She's top notch. But I know that when I need a specific question, I know that someone on your team can answer it. And I thank you for that.
Very cool. That's going to end it for today. Again, thank you for listening to our podcast, Helping Heroes Become Homeowners. We thank you for your service, and we'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
If this episode has been beneficial, we'd love to hear from you. Please leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Also, for regular updates and tips, make sure to follow our social media channels, which you can find in the show notes. Until our next episode, keep making homeownership dreams come true.